Hello everyone, welcome back to Morgan Hasn't Seen for the start of an exciting new series, Jeannine, for February, the month of love that people refer to it as, of course. Love is in the air this February on Morgan Hasn't Seen, as well as we're looking at some 90s rom-coms, very much your forte in this particular series. And we're starting, rather interestingly, with an all-black cast in Reginald Hudlin's Boomerang from 1992. You may have to forgive me today. I am recovering from an illness, so my voice may not be as pleasant to listen to as it often is. But we'll push through. We'll get through this today. And I'm excited too, because I really enjoyed this. I thought it was very interesting, very funny, definitely, which is something that, I feel like, to be fair, rom-coms maybe aren't always that funny, because I think some rom-coms kind of forget they're supposed to be comedic and
the
just end up being
part.
light romance movies.
Yeah.
But this is very much funny. It takes its time and energy to be purposefully purely comedic in an awful lot of scenes. Naturally, you're going to get that, given that you're led by Eddie Murphy and surrounded by all these other people he's surrounded with in this movie. It's quite a who's who of early 90s kind of big black stars, I think, which is an exciting thing as well, really, though, isn't it? But why Boomerang to start off this 90s rom-com series, Jeannine? Obviously, as I said, this is very much your forte of a genre. How come this one, though?
Well, we had 3 pretty big heavy hitters in this series, and so I was trying to think of one more that I thought fit. That was something that I don't think you probably would have watched on your own. I know in the past there has been a conscious effort to get you to watch more Black rom-coms. And since this is kind of like a cult classic amongst Black audiences, Black History Month, and being a rom-com, I just felt it was the perfect thing to kick this series off with and include amongst some of these other huge rom-coms that we're going to be talking this month.
I think that's very fair. It does seem quite a long while since we have done a Black rom-com on the show. There was a time on Morgan Hasn't Seen when it felt like every other week we were doing something of that.
Definitely.
So, to be fair, I now consider myself quite well-watched on a certain era of those movies. But no, it feels like, I suppose, quite a significant one, given its cast, given who's in it. Maybe not the top-tier quality of movie of some of the others that we've covered in years past on Morgan Hasn't Seen, just in terms of it being a successful rom-com. But it's very, very enjoyable. It obviously is perfectly competent and coherent as a story.
And this was kind of touted as, I think, one of the most successful Black films or successful films with an all-Black cast at the time it came out. So I think it had a $40 million budget and made $130 million. So it did very well. And I think what a lot of people love about it. And I think what a lot of people love about it is that, it's just showcasing Black excellence without really addressing race or making it about that at all. It's just people existing. They happen to be executives and, very kind of fancy and stylish and lavish and, all of that. And race really has nothing to do with it. They're just kind of living their lives. And I think it got a lot of criticism as well. I think from people saying, Black people don't live like this. Black people don't look like this. Black people aren't, all executives like this. So I think there was a lot of pushback at the time as well, because people didn't see Black people like this. So the fact that it's
Is
showing
this
them
from the racists? Would this be from perhaps?
I assume so, and even like studio executives and things like that. So
The racists.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Call it what it is. Let's not be let's not shy away.
But you know, executives who have these preconceived ideas about demographics and what people want to see and what people expect to see and that kind of thing. Marketing aspects and that kind of stuff. So I love that this film is just very much showcasing Black people being successful and that not being inherently, you know, a called out thing. So yeah.
No, it's good for doing that. It's a very, very fancy feeling movie, isn't it? Everybody's very rich and lavish and, as you say, very, very stylish. I do think perhaps this is sort of peak Eddie Murphy handsomeness as well.
Yeah.
There's a certain time in his life when he was actually quite dapper looking. And I don't know if it's
charming, slick,
very charming, very slick. I don't know if it's like too earlier than this. Like, if you're thinking 80s Eddie Murphy, I think there's a bit too much youthful energy.
Rough around the edges. Yeah.
But if you're thinking obviously 2000s Eddie Murphy, it's not quite dapper, slick sort of.
Yeah, we're kind of going back
anymore.
Yeah, we're kind of leaning into a silliness a little bit, because that's when we're getting, you know, Daddy Day Camp and Dr. Doolittle and you know, that kind of stuff. Yeah. I think the sequel to maybe Nutty Professor comes out around then too.
Around this time though is I mean, Vampire in Brooklyn as well is like 92,
96. I think it's 95. I think it's like 95.
Is it 95?
I think it was the year before.
It's earlier.
So I think it's the year before Scream, I want to say.
Okay.
West,
okay.
You know.
Similar era though, I suppose, but that very much feeling like, you know, Eddie Murphy's being cast here because he's actively handsome at this time, and it works for this role to be actively handsome as this incredible womanizer that he is in this movie. I mean, you believe it right away, don't you? Because he has the energy, he has the charm, he's giving a wink to everyone, giving a smile to everyone, dressed to the nines all the time. And looks like that. I mean, his mustache is absolutely perfect. As it usually is, to be fair. But no, I think he looks really good. He fits this role really, really well, I think. It's sad to hear, I suppose, to start us off, that there was pushback, as you said, based on the fact that, quote unquote, Black people don't live like that, or whatever it is. Maybe these people are just, maybe they've been watching the Boys in the Hoods and the Menace to Societies and things like that around the same time. That,
I think this is what all Black living looks like in the 90s.
Yes. Which are obviously very good movies, just about totally different things. But maybe it's just easier for certain people to focus in on, you people do it this way, you people do it this way, you people do it this way, and just pigeonhole everyone into different little boxes. And we can't have any cross intermingling or anything like that. Which we, of course, can. It's nice to see pretty people be pretty, and it's nice to see, you know, fancy people be fancy sometimes, isn't it? Which is what you're getting in this movie. Very, very pretty people be pretty and fancy together, all as one. And, well, most of the time, unless you're Martin Lawrence, obviously, who I'm not so sure anybody feels that way about Martin Lawrence, but that's a conversation we can get into if you would like.
Well, shout out to actually Eddie Murphy and Martin Lawrence, who are going to be sharing a grandchild. It's just been announced that
What?
uh, his daughter, who's married to Martin's daughter, who's married to Eddie's son, they are having a baby. So I think I just
I
saw the
did not
announcement
know
a few
that.
days ago. Yeah, yeah.
That's wild behavior.
Yeah,
I did not know
yeah,
that was a
yeah.
thing.
Mhm.
Crazy. Okay.
Yeah.
Should
Mhm.
we get into the movie properly then, Jeannine? And this
Yeah.
fashion world that we're in, I suppose, in this movie with the marketing
The
world that we're in, I
marketing world.
suppose, in this
Yeah.
movie.
So Marcus, a very successful marketing guy at this firm. His firm is about to merge with this other company, Lady Eloise Cosmetics, uh, whose figurehead is played by Eartha Kitt. So we're getting 2 cat women in this movie. Uh, and
That's true. It depends
yes,
who your favorite Catwoman is, doesn't it? Out of
yes, yeah.
the two in this, I think most people would probably go to the older as the
Yes.
preferred choice of Catwoman.
Definitely. And we're also getting a few Bond actors as well thrown in here. Um,
Yeah, well, there's all sorts. There is genuinely all sorts of people in this movie.
yes.
I
Yeah.
enjoyed seeing people pop up. I think Eartha Kitt is. I mean, there's something quite cat-like about Eartha Kitt anyway. She does seem to purr every single
Oh,
line.
yeah. Well, I think they probably wanted her to do that, I'm sure.
Of
It was probably
course.
requested. I know they did give her, quite a few lines that she felt were a little too nasty, and so they had to cut them. So
She's quite a nasty character in this movie, I suppose. And I don't say that in a horrible way. I say this in
yeah.
she's very forward as a
Yes.
character in this movie. And
Which
there
does
was a
play into
point when
some
I'm
fun
saying,
comedy.
like, go on, Eartha, why not?
Yeah.
You get what you want, all
Yeah.
4'11" of you, and you're absolutely tiny and you're just leering over Eddie Murphy this whole time, and it's
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yes, I love the comedy that comes out of that because he kind of is assuming that she's in charge of the whole company. So, he's like, to land this account, to make everything smooth with the merger. This lady wants to sleep with me. She's kind of this like kooky, over sexualized old woman. Even when she like invites him to dinner and she's like throwing all this innuendo at him, and her butler just
Yeah.
laughs because he knows he's like, oh, this woman's gonna eat you up, spit you out. So I love the little giggle his butler gives, and Marcus, Eddie Murphy's character, just looks like terrified when he sees the butler's expression. Um, and then it becomes this kind of running thing where everyone kind of knows he slept with Lady Eloise, but he
Yes.
ultimately finds out that she's kind of just there for show. Like, she's just kind of the face of the company and has really no stake in anything. She's not like a voting board member. She really has no power.
She's literally
And
just a figurehead and the face.
yeah,
She will get
yeah.
what she
So
wants.
exactly. So he literally slept with her for nothing. So it becomes kind of a little joke when the true person in charge, played by Robin Givens' character, Jacqueline, she
Yeah.
comes in and she's kind of in charge. And he expected to get a promotion and be in charge of this whole thing when the merger happened, but it turns out she got that position. So, he's having to contend with her on that aspect, but he's also having to contend with her because he's very attracted to her, but she's
Yeah.
very much like him in that she is very much like a playgirl in that she kind
Yeah.
of is a casual sex kind of person like he is.
I mean,
So
this is the crux of the whole
yeah,
rom-com movie,
yeah, that
really,
he
isn't
kind of
it? Is
meets his
Eddie Murphy.
match is yeah,
Yeah.
meeting his match,
He
not just on
he
the,
meets his
uh
match.
yes, not just on a kind of, romantic level, but on a business level as well,
Yeah.
so
A romantic level, a business level, a professional level, a
yeah.
personal level. It gets to him. We see him very early on in the movie be incredibly, flighty with women. He sees an incredibly attractive woman on the street, buying
Oh,
something or whatever,
yeah.
and ends up, taking her out, and it's all, you can sense it's all this game that he's playing. It's all
they kind
this
of
performance. It's all this play.
Yeah.
They obviously end up sleeping together. It's very, very, pretty and, beautiful. Everything looks amazing, sure. But he does some sort of weird sort of tug of the bed covers.
The covers.
And realizes she's got quite nasty feet, and then he's immediately put off. So he can't be doing any of that. Literally, she's absolutely stunning. But
it's Lela Rochon. Yeah, it's Lela Rochon, who you should probably know from Waiting to Exhale. And so we get a nice, fun, illustration of kind of what his game looks like. He sees this gorgeous.
His game is a nonsense, though. This is the thing. His game is it doesn't make sense.
Ridiculous.
He gets called out. He gets called out consistently
by his friends,
by Martin Lawrence, by David Alan Grier,
who are his two best friends. But we get to see a whole illustration of how this works for him. So he's out on the street and he sees this beautiful woman walking her dog. And so then he is trying to find a way to talk to her. So he ends up buying a leash off of somebody, like, hey, just give me your leash. I'll pay you for it. And starts calling for a missing dog. So he starts calling for his missing dog, and she comes over and she's very sensitive to his plight. Oh my gosh, what happened? And he plays it up. Oh my gosh, I'm so distraught. My missing dog, my missing dog. And to the point where she's like, well, here, let me give you my number. If you need anything, I'll help you out. So then he ends up calling her up and setting up a date. So she comes over to his place, nice fancy apartment. He, wines and dines her, makes dinner. She ends up kind of showing herself to be a little bit juvenile because she's like, gold star for Marcus, wonderful dinner. And so he's just like, oh, this girl's kind of vapid, but she's fine. So what kind of does that matter? He takes her back to her apartment.
I think I've always liked Eddie Murphy's nervous, uncomfortable face when he's just trying to be nice, but there's just a sort of
like we as an audience can tell he's not really liking this, but this woman is very hot, so I'm just gonna let that slide. Of course, he also has to pretend that the dog's at the groomer, so that's why the dog's not here right now
in the evening.
Yes.
Dogs not
right?
in the evening.
Exactly. But of course, we set this woman up to be a little kind of vapid. And so she doesn't think about that. So he takes her back to her apartment. And of course, he plays the sensitive man. Oh, no, it's okay. You don't have to invite me in. And of course, she finds that attractive that he's not pushing his way in the door. So then that gets her to invite him in. And he protests a little bit longer. And then he just kind of is like, oh, okay, I'll come in. And then ultimately, she throws herself at him. They make passionate love. And then, he does this little trick. While she's asleep on him, he pulls back the covers and he sees she has funky feet, corns and crunchy toenails and chipped up nail polish and all this whole kind of thing. He slips out of there and then he gets some crap from his friends about it the next day.
Rightly so, because these are two people as well who seem quite sadly desperate in their own different ways to find a certain level of romance. David Alan Grier is fairly sweet, I think, in the movie. He's quite timid. He's quite, he's very, very put together. He's quite sort of reserved, I suppose.
Yeah.
In the movie. And he just wants, to find a nice girl. But he can't quite go there with who should be the nice girl, maybe for David Alan Grier, which is Halle Berry.
I believe her character's name is Angela. She also works. She's the one who does all the kind of design and artwork for the marketing.
Yeah.
And I like getting to see Halle Berry play into kind of sweet as opposed to, because she would kind of later go on to be more sex pottish in a lot of roles, I think. Right after kind of this phase of her career when she was doing black films, she kind of migrates to more mainstream films and ends up kind of being the sexy object there. So it's nice to kind of see this cutesy little sweet version of her, and especially in comparison to the more kind of headstrong and sexy Jacqueline character played by Robin
Yeah.
Givens, because ultimately a bit of a love triangle forms with them and Eddie Murphy's character Marcus. So I like that there is a juxtaposition of making these women feel very different. Angela feeling more kind of down to earth and sweet, and Jacqueline being kind of more cold and kind of, you know, leading with sex and leading with power kind of thing.
No,
So,
I completely agree. I think it's an interesting love triangle. Really, it seems to make sense for the vast majority of the movie that Eddie Murphy would eventually get with Jacqueline, Robin Givens, and David Alan Grier would eventually get with Halle Berry, but it doesn't quite work out that way, and you feel like it should work out that way.
Yeah, because when Marcus first meets Angela, they have a very friendly rapport and they get along really well, and they kind of form a little bit of a friendship there. And then he ultimately sets her up with David Alan Grier. So we see them actually go out on a date, and they kind of have this sweet, very innocent kind of interaction, but nothing's really sparking with the two of them. So they ultimately just decide to be friends. And then on the other end of it, you know, while this is happening, we see Marcus try to pursue Jacqueline, but she's very much like trying to keep it business, but she also knows she is somewhat attracted to Marcus. And so I love kind of her flirtation, and then when he calls her on it, she tries to act like she wasn't flirting with him. And she kind of fights him off a little bit until she just kind of gives in. And ultimately she ends up kind of turning the tables on him in a really interesting way. I feel like that it does happen a little too fast, especially because we got this really kind of upfront, clear example of how Marcus operates with the whole Lela Rochon and the dog situation. So to see him kind of immediately after kind of a little bit of tries with Jacqueline, and finally she gives in and they hook up, him to immediately kind of be in love with her.
I mean, he falls, he falls very hard.
Very fast.
Surprising. Very fast. As you say, very surprising for a character we have seen to be actively a player, a character we are told is a player, a character we assume will continue to be some sort of player, and the crux of the movie will be him learning to not be a player. And while it doesn't not work out like that, it is strange, I agree with you, that as soon as, you know, Robin Givens really shows him any sort of overt attention, he's just like, oh, I'm in love with you now. Okay, everything is you, and you are everything, and everything is great, and I'm going to be, you know, frantic Eddie Murphy all the time with you, and use my hands very, you know, expressively, as Eddie Murphy does like to do when he gets a bit intense sometimes. But and Robin Givens is, I mean, she's not put off by his, I suppose, over dedication to her.
I think she senses.
She senses it's a bit simpy, as much as we, the viewer, sense it's a bit simpy, and is slowly put off by pursuing it kind of any further, or as far as we maybe have assumed it to be, given how the movie is set up.
Yeah, but I mean, even early on, she kind of establishes a pretty great power play that kind of puts him in his place. Because, you know, we saw the Lela Rochon thing. We see his neighbor, played by Tisha Campbell, so a Martin connection there with Martin Lawrence in there. And she's
Tisha Campbell's a very funny character.
She's yelling over the fence, constantly trying to warn women away from Marcus, because Marcus hooked up with her, and then you know, did the same thing to her that he does to every woman. You know, pumps her and dumps her kind of thing. So she's over here with
a horrible phrase. Yes, an accurate phrase, but a horrible phrase.
Yes. Well, I'm trying to kind of think of 90s vernacular kind of, for
Fair.
92.
Yes.
But I love
definitely something that Martin Lawrence would come out with in this
exactly,
movie.
yes. But it's funny, like we see her with a sign over her fence, like telling women to leave the apartment because he's a dog and this whole kind of thing.
She's actually a very sort of positive person. She wants to help all these people.
Yeah, exactly. She wants to help warn these women off this man who's just using them and going to hurt them. So she's
just doing it in a very aggressive way.
Yes, being very loud and stuff, yelling over her fence. So we have a couple illustrations of who Marcus is, from his friends, from the neighbor, from this woman we see him, hook up with and then dump because her feet suck or whatever. And then he meets Jacqueline and he's trying to use kind of these same moves on her and realizes kind of it might not work, because he does invite Jacqueline over for some business. And he made the dinner and he's talking about the sauce he made, and she's literally like not even paying attention to him because she's thinking about the sports game that's on. She really wants to watch. So they put on the game.
Business on her. This is the business.
Exactly. And we see him kind of try to implement the same moves he used with Lela Rochon, but they're not working on her, and she's just kind of ignoring him. So that he puts on the sports game for her. She's all into it, excited about who's winning, who's losing. Oh my gosh! And he's just sat there bored and kind of annoyed that she's not giving him any attention. So I love seeing him kind of get knocked down a few pegs after we've seen kind of the way he treats women. And I really love this power play for the Jacqueline character, which I read about Robin Givens casting. They didn't want to cast her because at this time in the media, they were kind of portraying her as a gold digger for marrying Mike Tyson and this whole kind of thing. So she was pretty well hated in the populace at this time, because media was putting this spin on her marriage to Mike Tyson, that she only married him for his money and all of this kind of thing. But ultimately, I think in the end, Reginald Hudlin thought, well, this is kind of makes her more perfect for Jacqueline, being seen as this powerful woman who ultimately ends up kind of being a bit of a villain at a certain point.
Sure.
Yeah. So he ultimately thought that would work well for the Jacqueline character. So I think, Robin Givens gives a really great performance as this character, really holding her own and going toe to toe with Marcus and really kind of turning the tables on him. So I really loved that scene, that before anything even happens with him, we see him trying to do his usual moves and her probably being aware of what he's doing and turning it on him pretty quickly. So I love that that's kind of what we see before any kind of hookup even happens between the two of them. So she kind of puts him through his paces a few times. And I think it isn't until she really sees him kind of be really competent at his job, because another aspect is this big marketing thing that happens with Grace Jones's character. She's a huge kind of memorable chunk of this film. She's going to be the new...
I mean, if we think certain other characters in this movie are quite forward, Eartha Kitt and even Eddie Murphy, they're quite forward sexually sort of people. Grace Jones is almost absurdly sexually forward in what she's doing in the movie. Naturally, this being Grace Jones, there's going to be some sort of eclectic thing going on with her. The costuming, the attitude, the whatever it may be, the persona, everything is very, very heightened, very, very eclectic. Yes, like I said.
Yes.
But there's a certain
we see her take off her panties and put them in a man's face.
Yes. Say, this is the smell I want. She's playing some sort of supposedly French person as well.
Yeah, she's like this French model who's going to be the new face of their new of Lady Eloise. And so there's a fragrance coming out that she's going to be the face of. And so the chemist comes in and he says, I think I found the right scent for your perfume. And she says it's not sexy enough. She doesn't like it. This is the smell I want it to smell like. And she takes her panties off and she rubs it all in the man's face.
Yeah,
and
this is the essence of sex. It's like, oh,
yeah. And then
this.
And then it gets thrown on the table, and I love how, like, we see everyone with their pens just, like, tossing it back until it ends up in the hands of Nelson, our other Bond actor, who I believe he was in Live and Let Die.
He was
Who
Geoffrey Holder.
yes, who is just as nasty, because even earlier when we first met the Nelson character, he like does all the commercials and things for their advertisements. He comes in with this commercial for this lipstick, and so we get to see Marcus at work quite a bit as well, which I like. He's showing Marcus this commercial for this fruity lipstick, and it's all these women like eating different fruits, and he has like one clip is like a woman, you know, seductively eating a banana, and another woman like dangling cherries over her tongue, and he's like, "It looks good, Nelson, but take out the bananas and take out the cherries. It's a little too nasty." You know, just like
it's
you.
Very nasty. It's very overt.
He's like, "But it looks good, Nelson, but take out those things because you nasty, Nelson." And so I love
he's
that,
like,
as everyone, he's all disappointed. Exactly. But we also see like how well he works with people, because even when the chemist gets very upset and storms off because Strange, you know, strange, but like with an accent. So it's Strange. Yes, but it's literally just strange. When he storms out, we see Marcus kind of handle him. Like the chemist is very upset, and he's like, just, you know, I think he says Elizabeth Taylor wouldn't have stuck her panties in my face, because this is around the time when Elizabeth Taylor had all, you know, her diamonds, fragrances and stuff. And I like that, you know, he gets the guy to come, he like pokes him a little and like tickles him and makes him laugh and gets him kind of to ease off and calm down. So I'm like, oh, that's kind of a cute little scene to show Marcus like at work, you know, de-escalating situations. I like how he made this guy laugh. And we go back into the boardroom, and we see everyone kind of tossing around Strange's panties, and then Nelson, he takes them and gets all excited and puts them in his pockets.
I honestly dread to think what he's going to be doing.
Gonna do with those. Yeah. So she's kind of frustrated about the perfume, Strange is, and she's getting upset. And then we see Marcus, you know, they're trying to come up with a name for it. And she's coming up with all these weird names, Afterbirth, and
that's appealing, isn't it?
Pig puke, and like weird names she's coming up with. And so to really kind of appease her and kind of ease the whole situation, he says, you know, I know a name that's, you know, evokes sex and power and all these wonderful things. Let's just call it Strange. And of course she loves it, and everyone in the boardroom is clapping, and Jacqueline is really seeing, wow, like Marcus really knows how to like handle himself. And so I think that's the end of where she actually kind of starts developing an attraction to Marcus in this whole kind of boardroom scene. So I love that, like, the business stuff and getting to see Marcus be competent at his job are kind of elements that the film does take time to focus on, as opposed to kind of, you know, nondescript business, and we're just focusing on the character relationships. We're actually getting to see them work and do their job and be successful and all of that kind of thing as well.
No, definitely. I think it's a necessary layer to add to why Robin Givens would fall for him, to why, you know, he is considered this incredibly desirable person. It's not just this surface level, he's very handsome attitude. It's this, he's actively, yes, he's very handsome, but he's also very successful, and we see him being very successful. He's very good, he's very competent. There's a reason he's very successful. We're not just told that, we see it. So it makes more sense to us. It gives us more depth to him, I suppose. Slightly later on in the movie, I think Grace Jones does proposition Marcus as well. And I think in the middle of a restaurant that Marcus gets with her in a rather aggressive, direct manner.
It comes out of
patrons of this restaurant.
Yeah, well, it comes out of Jacqueline really kind of not being the best person. So ultimately, they
Yeah.
go on this business trip in New Orleans, and that's where they end up hooking up. And
Yes.
he, like, literally kind of immediately after that, he's all excited to kind of make the next date with her and spend time with her again. But she's very like, I'm busy, I'm going out of town, I got all this stuff going on. And so he gets kind of all hurt by this. He's having a conversation with Angela, and Angela admits that Jacqueline has kind of revealed to her, and we even hear the two of them having a conversation where she's telling Angela all about how Marcus is in bed. So it's kind of like this
Yeah.
reverse almost of like how women talk about sex and how men talk about sex, especially in the 90s. Because a 90s movie, a guy is telling all his guy friends about every aspect of his
Everything.
sexual
Yeah.
relationship with a woman. But to see Jacqueline being the one doing it also, I think, plays into that power play of her being just as in the same kind of status as Marcus. So we see her talking to Angela about it really openly and kind of giggling and almost mocking a little bit. And yeah, Marcus is like trying to plan a next meeting with her, but she's very kind of squirrely with him, to the point where, she makes plans to she ends up having like her assistant call him and say she's available such and such date. And he's
Yeah,
like,
and it's
that's
in
like
like 3 weeks time or something
and
like
he's
that.
like, well, that's her first available opening. And he's like, fine, I'll take it. So now, like, we've made it to this night. He's waiting for her to show up. She's supposed to be flying in from some business meeting. He hasn't heard from her. He's starting to actually get worried about her because he hasn't heard from
Yeah.
her. Um,
He starts going around all New York and ringing all the hospitals and ringing all the police stations.
Yeah, like he's
Yeah,
genuinely
he is.
worried. Yeah, and then she shows up and he's really mad and saying how worried he is, and she kind of feels nonchalant, like, "Oh, it's not a big deal." And she's like, "Well, maybe I'll just go." But then she seduces him, opens her trench coat, and she has, sexy lingerie on.
Yes, and
And so of
nothing
course
else.
exactly. So of course he's no longer mad. They hook up and then she just leaves. And I love that he kind of like he's like looks basically almost like looks to camera and like pulls the sheets up over him like I feel so used,
Yeah,
Um and then that's when we get to the scene kind of where you were talking about. They're at dinner with Stranger, talking about the next kind of campaign moves. And she gets up to go take a phone call. And that's when Stranger propositions him and says, so, when are you and I going to sleep together? Jacqueline told me that you really know how to move your
yeah.
ass and you're good in bed and this and this and that. And he's like, "No, this is not happening." And then Stranger starts to kind of get loud and mean and like, "How dare you not sleep with me? This and this and this." And
But
making a
it's
big
very
scene.
sort of, "Look at me, why would you not
Yes,
want to?"
why would you refuse me? I'm Stranger and this. And it's all kind of kicked off because Jacqueline's out here liberally telling people about him in bed.
Yeah,
Um, and so she storms off. Jacqueline comes back and blames him. What did you do? And then he has to tell her, well, you're out here telling her what I do and this and that. Why are you talking to people, especially like business associates, about what we do in bed? And so she's like, oh gosh, okay, I'll handle it. And then we see her kind of handle business, which is kind of cool to see, even though we're kind of pissed
yeah,
at her for kind of creating the situation and not being very professional. But I love that she says, Stranger, you're gonna do what we asked of you. Stop playing these little games because otherwise I will take the millions that I'm paying you. You will
mm.
not get paid and this and this and that. So she kind of tells
There will be no
Strong J
contract. I will get rid of
exactly.
it.
Yeah. And so the fact that she's telling this woman we've seen be a powerhouse, um, kind of cower a little bit to Jacqueline is it was like, okay, well, we get to see her be kind of an authority and competent at her job as well. So
Yeah,
again, I just love how much business plays into the story and how much they prioritized it in a rom-com when, most movies like this would put more focus on the kind of relationship stuff. Um,
yeah,
and then ultimately, Marcus is pissed that she's going around telling all their business, and ultimately that whole relationship kind of ends. And she's very kind of cold to him in terms of kind of how it ends. Like she doesn't seem that bothered by, him being upset about it.
no.
And so he ends up kind of sinking a bit into a depression. So it gets to the point where it's like, what are we going to do for this perfume commercial for Strange? And because he's in this funk, um, he just tells Nelson to do whatever he wants. Like, free reign, Nelson, you do what you want. And he's like, are you
Which
sure? He's
Nelson
like,
will
yeah.
be happy,
Yes,
very happy
yes,
about,
this is
won't he?
Nelson who had all this sexual innuendo in that fruit commercial. This is Nelson who happily shoved those panties in his pocket. So
God knows
he
what
tells,
he'll do with a
yeah,
commercial with Strange, who's also probably wanting to go and do some sort of ridiculous, over-sexualized commercial herself. So it would be the most
exactly. So
over-sexualized commercial in the entire
insane
history of
commercial.
commercials.
Exactly. So he gives Nelson free reign because he's depressed. And then this is where he starts spending more time with Angela, because we do see them they've struck up this friendship. You know, he set her up with Gerard, David Alan Grier's character, and she's trying to cheer him up. So she takes him to a classroom that she teaches at part-time. He meets the kids that she teaches, and they're all kind of funny, and so they have a
Yes.
fun little kind of date of him and her with her students, and trying to cheer him up. She even goes to Jacqueline and says, hey, can you just take it easy on Marcus? Like, I think you kind of messed with him, and I think it's starting to affect his work. So I'm just letting you, I'm not trying to be in your business, but I'm seeing Marcus is kind of hurting right now, and it's affecting his ability to do his job. So can you just ease off a little bit? So I love that she kind of even goes to bat for Marcus and tries to defend him. Jacqueline seems a little bit kind of jealous, or she doesn't like, Angela even bringing it up or talking about it.
No.
So yeah, but I love that we have this scene of these two women kind of, Angela showing how genuine she is, that she cares about Marcus. And I love getting to see Jacqueline show a little bit of cracks and actually be a little bit kind of uncomfortable that this other woman is kind of telling her something, a woman that is kind of in a lower work status than her, a woman that
Yeah.
is kind of more endeared to her ex, and all of that, all of those kind of
Yes.
interesting dynamics happening.
Well,
And so,
the thing is, with Angela, with Halle Berry, she's consistently just genuine throughout the whole movie. She never
yeah,
kind of puts a foot wrong
yeah,
character-wise. She's nice, perfectly nice to David Alan Grier when that whole thing is set up, but obviously it doesn't go anywhere,
yeah.
really. We
And they
do
decide
get
to be friends.
a
Yeah,
fairly hilarious scene when we go and see David Alan Grier's parents, his father,
yeah.
played by
His
John
father and his mother.
Witherspoon,
Yes, which they actually
who
wanted to cut a lot of his scenes, but Eddie Murphy
is
was
so
like,
good.
"No, we're keeping these scenes in." John Witherspoon wore his own clothes, so that mushroom outfit was very much his own
What's
clothes.
this?
All of the jokes he was making, all ad-libbed. So
It's so funny.
yeah,
That
it's so
whole
great.
scene is so funny. It's
Yeah,
because he's asking, obviously, his David Alan Grier is very, very embarrassed by his own parents. His own
yeah,
parents are quite sort of sexually forward as well. And John Witherspoon
yeah,
is making all these lewd comments about his
yes,
own son's kind of lack of sexual prowess.
yeah.
Is Martin Lawrence there as well, who's also laughing at
No,
all this?
I don't think he's there because they come. I think Gerard's parents come over with him to Marcus's house for Thanksgiving. So
Yes.
It's Angela, Marcus, Gerard, and Gerard's parents.
Yeah.
And she brings over chitlins, and it's like they stink, and it's a whole kind of like crazy thing. And then they're like in the bathroom, like doing it, his parents, and he's like super
Yeah.
embarrassed. And they keep making comments about him and Angela. And this is where we kind of establish multiple times that they're just friends. So I like the
Yeah.
movie, makes an effort to let us know this, because what ultimately happens after the Thanksgiving, Angela's like, oh, I can help you do the dishes. And he's like, no, it's fine. And then he walks into the kitchen and sees dishes everywhere. And he's like,
Well, it's
on
literally full
second
of
thought,
dishes. I've never
yes,
seen so many
everywhere.
dishes.
And it's like, what, it was 4 people and that many dishes. But so he changes his mind and asks her to help him clean. So now they're kind of exhausted, and they've plopped down on the couch, and Star Trek comes on, and they have a kind of a cute little Star Trek conversation.
Yes.
And then she falls asleep on his shoulder. And then when they ultimately wake up later, one thing leads to another. They kiss, and they ultimately end up hooking up and kind of forming this connection.
Yeah.
Um,
I really
and
honestly though cannot understand for the life of me why they would want to cut John Witherspoon's scenes from this movie.
I don't know. They're
It's
so
so good.
funny.
I mean,
Yeah.
he's there for one scene, and
Yeah.
it's so good. He's so funny. He's a very unpredictable comedian, isn't he?
Yeah.
Really, he will
Yeah.
just say some outrageously outlandish thing
Yeah.
at a completely inappropriate time and place, and it's kind of spit your water out funny a lot of the time. I think
Yeah.
with John
Oh, yeah, John
Witherspoon,
Witherspoon's
and
great because I just watched, Vampire in Brooklyn as well, and his
yeah,
scenes,
oh,
he
he
brings
is in
some
that,
great.
isn't he?
Yeah,
He's at the
yeah.
beginning.
Yeah, so he's in it throughout, like, a little bit here and there, but yeah, of course, he's great in everything, so, rest in peace, John Witherspoon, but,
Yes,
yeah,
very
he's great.
much so.
I'm glad they had this
Very,
little
very funny.
comedy break of this to, like, allow allow him to kind of do his comic stylings for a little bit, before he kind
Yeah,
of moved back into the seriousness of the plot, so, yeah,
yeah. I mean, it's a cameo, really, but as you
essentially, yeah.
also mentioned before, the outfit he's got, and he spends ages talking about this outfit he's got and how you must coordinate your outfit. And look, oh, I've got the mushroom shirt, but look, it's not just a mushroom shirt. Look at this. I've also got a mushroom underlay of my jacket. I've also
Yeah,
got,
and a mushroom belt.
a mushroom belt on. It's like, oh, you've got a mushroom belt. Yeah, you gotta coordinate your outfits.
Yeah, it's great.
And then he's
So
talking
good.
about, outwardly overly sexual things at the Thanksgiving table, which is obviously an
Yeah.
inappropriate subject for the dinner table, but there you go.
Exactly, and then
Um,
him and the mother come out of the bathroom, his jacket's, like,
yes.
inside out, her hat's all crooked, like yeah.
There's also another fun cameo in the movie, though. Chris Rock, a very, very young
Oh, yeah,
Chris
very
Rock,
young Chris Rock as, like, the male guy, the male boy at the office.
who's like,
Yeah.
I've been working here for like 9 days now. You wanna get me a promotion yet? Like,
Yeah.
shut up, Chris Rock. Nobody
Right?
wants to get you a
Exactly.
promotion.
Yeah.
Marcus, come on, help me out. Like, no,
Yeah.
stop being so
No,
loud,
no.
Chris Rock.
Exactly.
Typically
Yeah.
Chris Rock, very loud and what's that's
Yeah,
that's my
that was
impression
very
of Chris
his
Rock.
brand. Yeah, especially a younger Chris Rock, making the most of his little screen time, I guess.
Very
Um,
much so.
yes. So then, yeah, we see Angela and Marcus kind of be a couple for a little bit. Like she's kind of there all the time. She's painting there, working there. And then we go to this big meeting where we are showing the commercial for the Strange perfume.
Yes.
And nobody has seen it because Marcus just let Nelson do it on his own. Jacqueline kind of leans over to Marcus and says, "Hey, do you know what this? Have you seen this?" And he's like, "No, I let Nelson do it on his own." And so everyone's like, "Oh my gosh." Yeah. So we play the commercial and it's like a jungle setting and we see the back of Grace Jones and then she turns around and she has a skull face. And then she's like this woman covered in branches and vines in this big crazy dress made of branches and she's got this pregnant belly covered in branches and vines.
Yes.
And then we actually see her give a disgusting looking, disgusting sounding birth
Yes.
to the bottle of perfume.
Why on earth why on earth anybody would think this would make a good perfume commercial? I've got no
I don't
idea.
know. It's just an insane, gross, weird commercial, and everyone's upset about it. And ultimately, Marcus is getting fired, but Jacqueline says, "I've convinced them to give you one more chance." And he's like, "Well, okay, as my colleague, I appreciate that. But as anything else, like, you're kind of the one who did this. Like you, got me all excited about this relationship just to kind of kick me when I'm down kind of thing." Um, and ultimately she's like, "I think what's best is for you to take a couple weeks off."
Yeah.
So after this whole debacle, she's able to save his job, but ultimately, he takes some time off. Um, And yeah, so in that time, he's spending it with Angela, and we see them really kind of working really well together, and her kind of, cheering him up and bringing him back. And then we ultimately also see him have to tell Gerard, like he kind of
Yes.
tries to broach the subject slowly, like, hey, so you and Angela aren't really kind of a thing, right? He's like, no, we're just friends. And it's like, well, how would you feel about her seeing somebody else? And Gerard kind of immediately gets it. He's like, why do you have to have everything, Marcus? Why do you have to have all the girls? And like she's too good for you. Like you're just gonna break her heart. Like I don't want to see you hurt her. And so he pisses off Gerard. So he kind of screws things
Yeah.
up with his friend. And then he ultimately, him and Angela comes up with a better campaign idea for a new
Yeah.
commercial, to kind of just show all the wild antics of Strawn J, but make it kind of like a collage of them and say, Strawn J, speaks to your
Strawn J
wild
is
spirit.
Strawn J, basically.
Yes, that Strawn, will speak to your wild spirit kind of thing.
Yes.
So they cut together this commercial of Strawn J kind of at her wildest, kind of most, bombastic moments.
Another fun cameo, actually, strangely enough, in the movies when they're cutting together this other commercial. And Melvin Van Peebles is the editor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously, director of such blaxploitation classics as Sweet Sweetback's Badass Song and father of Mario Van Peebles.
Real Van Peebles, yeah, who was very much of this era of hood classics that you would call them.
Yes.
New Jack City and the like.
But typically dressed in a cap and cigar.
Yes.
I think he had, so with his mustache.
Which is also, and he does have a bit of a funny moment as they're cutting it together, because there's a scene where it's a video of Strawn J from behind, and she's like ripping off her top. And so they're trying to see if they can use this clip, because they're like, is that a nipple? Like, can't tell. And like, Angela's like, I think that's a nipple. Marcus is like, no, I think it's a shadow. And then I think he says, I think it's a shadow of a nipple. And Melvin Van Peebles is like, and he's like, here, I'll zoom it in. He's like, yeah, it must be a nipple, because I'm drooling. And they just look at him and laugh. He like has a cigar and just like, must be a nipple.
Yes.
But yeah, they end up cutting together a really cool commercial, and they work really good together, and the executives love it. And we see them kind of give each other a look, and Jacqueline kind of clocks it and seems a little jealous.
Yes.
And so kind of immediately after seeing like how well they work together and how well they're kind of vibing together and all this whole kind of thing, and they've come up with this great campaign together. He is at his place. He's like about to take a shower, has just taken a shower, and Angela calls him out because she wants to show him this new painting she's made. And as he's showing her the painting, he gets a phone call, and it's Jacqueline. She wants him to come to this business meeting with these French executives and this whole kind of thing. And as soon as he talks to Jacqueline, because Angela is the one who answered the phone. And so I think, based off of the conversation, we can surmise Jacqueline asks, what's Angela doing there? And instead of saying like, she's been kind of staying with me, she's hanging out, he says, oh, she just stopped by. And as soon as Angela hears this, she's like, okay, I see what this is. Like, he can't even really be honest about my presence here to Jacqueline. So what does that mean?
Where are we? Where are we here? Are we actually doing anything? What's going on? Say it outright, Marcus. Come on.
Yeah, so we see her immediately kind of clock his wording, and him even being kind of less engaged after he gets off the phone with Jacqueline. And so we see her kind of come to a realization about that. Yeah. So, and then he kind of tries to play the game of, if you don't want me to go to the meeting, I don't have to go to the meeting. It feels almost like when he was with Lela Rochon and said, oh, I don't have to come in if you don't want me to come in.
Yeah.
And it feels kind of like that. So it feels icky, because we've seen him be really sweet and genuine with Angela, but this reads differently. It reads like old Marcus. So we're just kind of like, I don't like this. But she's not gonna like get in his way. She's like, if he cares about me, he'll do the right thing, and if he doesn't, then he'll prove that, you know, I'll know soon enough that whether he's worthy or not. I feel like is how she's kind of handling it. So when he kind of, you know, fakely says, I don't have to go if you don't want me to go, she says, no, you know, it's business. You do what you need to do. Go have this meeting with Jacqueline, whatever. But we reread her face completely. Like she feels like, yeah, he's probably still has feelings there. Something's probably going to happen, but I'm going to benefit of the doubt. So he goes to this meeting. They schmooze the executives. They do a great job. And then Jacqueline kind of tries to seduce him to stay. And he ultimately does stay. And then we see him sneaking in and sneaking into bed with Angela. But Angela kind of fully knows. So the next morning she questions him about it, and I appreciate him like being honest, but of course he tries to spin it in a way that like, you know, I thought I was done with her, but as soon as we were together, just a bunch of old feelings crept back up, and there's nothing I could do about it. And
yes,
all these
there's plenty you could do about it.
Exactly. Yeah. And he's like, you know, I can't help it, you know, that love, you know, is what kind of made me do it. And then she kind of throws this line at him that ultimately ends up turning into a song later in the movie that she says, well, love should have brought you home last night. And then like we hear a song that says like sings those exact lyrics, which I think this might have been a Babyface soundtrack. And I want to say this soundtrack actually did numbers as well.
Okay.
So yeah. Babyface soundtrack's always so good. I think he did the Waiting to Exhale soundtrack too.
Yes, he did.
Black movie soundtracks. Yes, Babyface on top of it. Whole Food, I think he did as well. So yeah, he's the man for that. But yeah, and he ultimately kind of tries to make some excuses, and she calls him out, and then she slaps him. And I think I read that slap was real. So yeah,
it looked real.
Power.
It was a hell of a slap.
Yeah, so power to selling that scene. So ultimately, yeah, she's done with him fair enough, because, you know, how dare he, especially after the time they spent together, and you know, all, and what Jacqueline did to him for him to kind of just go back with her. And so yeah, they're done. And then we do see him kind of back in a situation where he's about to hook up with Jacqueline, but then he kind of tells her no and leaves, because he realizes he is in love with Angela, but too late.
Comes to his as typical at the end of a rom-com. He comes to his senses and realizes, oh dear, I've messed up my chance with the good one, so I'm going to have to go groveling and crawling back to the good one now.
Yeah, exactly.
I've done a bad.
Yeah, but before that, we see Martin Lawrence try to kind of mend fences with him and Marcus and Gerard, by having like a friends night. We see him clumsily trying to cook some fried chicken and making a mess of it. But ultimately,
Martin Lawrence is an idiot throughout the whole movie, really.
Exactly. So we do see ultimately the friends reconcile. We get a really great shot of them kind of hugging right under the Empire State Building from the rooftop view. So like great shot there with that. So he's made peace with his friends. And then we see Angela, you know, after this success of this campaign, now she's kind of gone on to get a higher position in art design and has her own kind of business that she's doing. So she doesn't even have time to teach her class anymore. She has her own office. She's like a busy executive kind of now herself. So cut to now 2 of her students that we had met in the class that had like kind of prominent funny moments in that classroom scene come to her class, and they're like, oh, we miss you. You know, we haven't seen you in weeks. And she's like, I know, I've been working. I've been busy. And they say, oh, well, our new teacher brought us by. And they're like, oh, well, where is she? And she's like, and they're like, and it's Marcus. He comes in. So he ended up going to her class and talking to her kids and bringing them there. And he ultimately tries to apologize and say he's sorry and that he's in love with her, and you know, all of the romantic
all
things,
the standard things,
the standard reconciliation dialogue that we get, but he delivers it with that schnazzy stash, and
he does. It's very good.
Yeah. And ultimately they do reconcile, and so we see a cute scene of them walking down the street, and attractive woman walks by, and we see that she's clearly looking at Marcus, and she's like, if you turn your head and look at that woman, kind of thing. And he's like, I didn't look at her, I swear.
No,
So
a changed
yeah.
man, only eyes for Halle Berry. Now,
Yeah.
which obviously is perfectly reasonable decision to be making. But yes, I mean, we may have assumed he might end the movie with Robin Givens, as I said before, given how the movie is set up.
Yeah.
But I like that it throws the Halle Berry curveball at us and lands it.
And we establish a bit of a nice kind of rapport. Yeah, and I like that we established a nice little rapport and friendship with them beforehand, so that when they do kind of come together, it makes sense, because she's kind of looking out for him after all the Jacqueline stuff. So it's not even like a case of she liked him before Jacqueline and she was jealous. No, like she wasn't really even interested in him. She saw him as purely a friend, and it's only until they spent time together that feelings kind of developed there, and that kind of care developed. And Jacqueline kind of being terrible, because I forgot to mention, even there's a scene after Jacqueline kind of dumps him. We see like she's kind of crowded around all the women at the office, and Marcus walks in, and they're all just like laughing at him. Yeah. And Jacqueline's kind of leading the charge on all of these women laughing at him. So I'm like, that is just like going too far now, making him a joke, not just in his personal life, but now making him a joke at the workplace by telling everyone about it. So yeah.
No, it's as I said, I think it lands very, very well. Obviously, you would expect it to end in a positive light, of course, but it's a very sort of believable through line of character story, I think. In Boomerang, and it's nice to see the womanizer become a one-woman man kind of trope that yes, is prevalent in many rom-coms throughout history, sure, but I think it works really well in this one. As I said, it's a very, very funny, a particularly funny rom-com. And I had a lot of fun with it. I think it's a great start to this series, Jeannine, given that we've got definitely 2, but really 3 kind of big dogs coming
major
in the next 3 weeks.
Yes.
It feels like this was just a nice little teaser, a nice little opener, something different to what the other 3 are going to be. Maybe yes, okay, very successful, particularly big as far as black rom-coms go.
Like very successful for a black audience. Like this is like huge amongst black audiences. This is our Sleepless in Seattle kind of of the 90s. So
well, we do have that coming later on in the series, of course, don't we? I think we've got My Best Friend's Wedding next week, which is 97, I believe, is My Best Friend's Wedding. Julia Roberts, Cameron Diaz, I want to say as well.
Dermot
who is our leading Dermot Mulroney. Is our leading man, of course. Dylan McDermott Mulroney, as I always like to call him, because we always get it's easy to get confused between Dylan McDermott and Dermot Mulroney, and they have the same. One name,
and they've had fun playing with these actors as well. Also Prince Charming in there.
Rupert Everett, yes, of course. Very nice. That is what we've got coming next week in our 90s rom-com series here on Morgan Hasn't Seen in the month of love, Jeannine. It's not the only show we have on the It's a Wonderful podcast feed, though, is it?
No, of course we have Morgan Hasn't Seen TV every Monday, which is going to be transferring back to a Jeannine Hasn't Seen, as we're going to be getting back into talking Doctor Who. As we do have some shows ending seasons, we're going to be throwing some other fun things into the mix. Bridgerton season 4, maybe some Welcome to Derry, perhaps. So
we're chopping and changing a few things on the old TV.
Yes, but we'll always have new Morgan Hasn't Seen TV on Mondays. And then, of course, on Friday, we have the main show, It's a Wonderful Podcast, where we are kicking off a brand new series over there as well.
We certainly are. Black Cinema Series for US Black History Month over on the main show, celebrating old movies every week like we love to do there. Subscribe wherever you are listening to today's episode. If you are watching today's particularly special video podcast episode over on YouTube, do subscribe and ding your notification bell there as well. Things have been scrolling down at the bottom of the screen all episode long if you are over there. But if you are just listening, of course, subscribe wherever you are today on all major podcast platforms. Leave your comments on Spotify, rate and review, and leave your likes and shares everywhere else, of course. If you would like to support us on Patreon or donate in any way, do find the links to do that in the description of today's episode. Or, of course, find us on and across all the social medias on the app formerly known as Twitter and on Blue Sky, and it's a wonderful one. Find me on the app formerly known as Twitter at the Purple Dawn with the 3 instead of the E in there, because, Jeannine,
3 is a magic number.
On Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky at the Purple Dawn. Forgive my getting over illness today, please. I hope to be fine for the next week's shows. Jeannine, all your boomeranging is where?
You can find me Jeannine Devine _ on Twitter, Jeannine Devine on Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. And if you want to get any merch for any of our shows, just check the description for the link or search G9 Design on tpublic.com.
There we go. That, of course, leaves us only one thing left to do. Plenty of impressions to go at in this particular.
Oh no! Oh Lord! Today. Why you do this to
Isn't
me?
There really?
No, I don't know there's none of all.
There is actually there's actually loads. I mean, an Eddie Murphy impression I wouldn't be opposed to an Eddie Murphy impression. I wouldn't even be opposed to a Chris Rock impression, because all you have to do really is just scream ah, ah, ah! And that's just Chris Rock. Or you could even attempt a John Witherspoon if you really wanted to, or an Eartha Kitt.
Oh Lord, why do you put me in these positions? 3, 2, 1. I'm not even gonna try to purr.
She just purrs.
I know.
It's a ridiculously
that's crazy
vocal talent.
Yeah.
Well done, Eartha. 3, 2, 1. Bye.